The depth zone experiment, case file Delta 14. They say we know more about the surface of Mars than the bottom of our own ocean. But in 2012, a private research vessel found something down there, something that answered when we called. What they recorded was never meant for the public, and when you hear what it said, you'll understand why. They called it Project Delta 14, a deep-sea mapping test run by a private company somewhere off the Florida coast in May 2012. The mission? To test a new kind of sound-based mapping technology, one that could visualize the ocean floor deeper than anything before it. But about 400 miles offshore, something happened. Something no sonar operator had ever reported before. The logs show that at 2:17 a.m. Eastern Time, the test signal reached its max depth, roughly 33,000 feet below sea level, almost double the safe limit for their unmanned probe. At first, everything looked normal. Then the signal came back, not as data, not as static, but as a voice. It repeated the transmission's own coordinates. Once, twice, 3 times. Then, silence. They thought it was a system loop, just a glitch. But the data log said otherwise. The returning sound didn't match their own transmission. It was recorded 9 hertz lower, as if it had passed through something alive. They shut the experiment down immediately. But that wasn't the end. 2 days later, back at their mainland facility, technicians started picking up strange interference on every channel. The sound matched their original test ping, but it was warped, almost like an underwater heartbeat. When they traced the source, they realized it wasn't coming from inside their network. It was coming from offshore, from the exact same coordinates. At first, they thought someone was hijacking their signal, maybe another contractor, but the return ping wasn't coming through any public frequency. It was showing up on a private internal channel, one that had never been connected to the internet. That's when they filed the report. Official label, Anomalous Audio Response, Deep Zone. Case code, Delta 14. Then everything was sealed under corporate classification. For months, no one outside the company even knew it happened. Not until a year later, when a maintenance log leaked on an oceanography forum. The log was short, too short for what really happened. June 11th, 2012. Signal loop continues. Origin depth unknown. June 15th. Secondary test suspended. Equipment behaving irregularly. June 20th. Frequency distortion, repeating phrase, re-enter sequence. That last line, re-enter sequence, started circulating online. Nobody could explain it, but when analysts ran the waveform through spectrum visualization software, something strange appeared. The pattern wasn't random. It formed a hexagon nested inside itself, cycling every 11 seconds. Almost like the signal was building something. By late 2013, the company behind Delta 14 quietly shut down its marine division. All their assets got transferred to a holding group in Delaware. A shell company with no public contact and a board made up of encrypted IDs. Whatever they found, it never went public, but fragments of data did. In 2015, an independent researcher named A.J. Heller posted a file called Recovered Depth Echo Number 2. It lasted exactly 4 minutes and 22 seconds, mostly low-frequency ocean rumble until the final 10 seconds. There, buried in the static, a distorted voice whispered a single phrase, pressure equalized, internal cycle active. That same phrase appears in one other known document, a 2003 Fort Mason maintenance file describing an underground vibration pattern. Different field, same language. So what was the depth zone experiment really testing? According to partially declassified documents released in 2019, the tech behind it wasn't just mapping sonar. It was built on something called a resonant feedback array, a system that didn't just detect objects. It could interact with them, meaning it could send a frequency deep into an environment. And if conditions were right, the environment could send something back. That's what makes Delta 14 so disturbing, because the ocean did respond. After that, all further testing was shut down. But every few months, ocean monitoring stations along the East Coast still record low-frequency tones, always near those same coordinates. When those points are plotted on a map, they form a spiral. slowly expanding, as if tracing something growing beneath the seafloor. The spiral's radius increases zero point 0.3 nautical miles per year. If that continues by 2031, the outer edge will reach the Florida coast. No agency has ever acknowledged the project. Every engineer who worked on it has vanished from public records. The last known file was archived under one name, Vault Return 2012. Every trace erased, except one. If you tune your radio to 17.8 kilohertz between 2 and 3 a.m., and you're close enough to the eastern coastline, you might still hear it, a faint, rhythmic pulse, repeating every 11 seconds. Listeners say it sounds like a heartbeat, but sonar experts disagree. They say it's mechanical, still active, still transmitting, and still waiting for someone to send a signal back. What do you think is really sending that sound from the deep?